Over half of the population is living below the poverty line in the second largest economy in Africa. A recession has been ongoing for 9 consecutive quarters, a misnomer for a continental giant, one which boasts of having a few of the top 10 fastest growing economies in the world. As oil production slowly increases after years of rampant pipeline vandalizations and mismanagement in the country's oil sector, declining petroleum prices, rising inflation, and a forex crisis dent any of the positives. Many will, despite recent anti-corruption success, blaming failing leadership. This leadership has failed to tackle the basics while touting success, which seem to have no bearing on the ordinary lives of Nigerians. More people are falling into poverty. Prices of most goods are out of reach for the average person, and the basic necessities like access to clean water, electricity, jobs, and security are still considered luxuries. This is Nigeria in 2017.
Our main source of income is oil, and right now in the world, the demand of oil is dropping, and some nations are discovering cheaper means of producing their oil. So to me, Nigeria is not yet out of recession.
Before, when you have 500 naira, you can eat with 500 naira, you can even have enough to eat and even have some change with you. But now you cannot go to market with even 2,000 naira. If you go to market with 2,000 naira, you cannot even buy enough.
From the last government, the federal government was not doing well according to the information we gather. So when this one came in, we have the very hope that as soon as they come, things will get better. But things are getting worse.
I can remember when I used to fly, if I want to book for a flight, I get a flight for like 8,000. But now, you can't get a cheap flight for as low as 20,000. You can't. Everything is above 20. Everything is at the high rate. Things are getting worse every day.
What I've heard and what I've seen lately, people have been complaining that the government is not trying.
From the streets to the offices, from the offices to the Senate, from the Senate to even the presidency. If they sweep every nook and cranny of the country, I believe in that situation they fought corruption perfectly. But this fight now is one-sided.
Poverty is increasing. In times of this government we are now, it's very, very, very difficult for someone to eat. We do eat 3 times in a day, but now we find it difficult to eat more than 2 times in a day.
It's 2 years from the general election, but the country is tense from all speculation already. Nigeria's 2 biggest political parties have been going to battle in local and state elections that serve as a proxy wars, with both parties sharing the spoils so far. President Buhari is in his mid-70s, and with his health failing him, 2019 is up in the air, and the candidates who are going to fly the flags for these parties, no one knows. When the names are mentioned of those who will likely run, the name Atiku Abubakar will probably be among them.
2019, almost all parties that I know have zoned to the north. So we're looking at leaders who come from the north. I can call like Atiku Abubakar, Sule Lamido, Rabi Ukwankwaso, yeah, and then from the other party, I'm seeing Dan Kwambo, yeah, but of all these, I think none of them is going to be as formidable as Atiku, I believe.
Atiku Abubakar is a politician, businessman, and philanthropist who served as a 2-term vice president between 1999 to 2007. He spent his career in the civil service, serving as a customs officer in the Nigerian Customs Service, where he ultimately rose to the rank of deputy controller before he resigned in 1989. He was born in Jada, a small village in Adamawa State, in 1946. He received a diploma in law from the Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria in 1967. His political career began shortly after the end of his career in the Customs Service, when he ran for the governor of the defunct Gongola state, and then for president on the SDP platform in 1992, but he lost both times. He ran and won another election for governor in 1998, but he was never able to serve as he was picked by the president-elect Olusegun Obasanjo to be his running mate. Atiku Abubakar came short and lost during the last primary elections to current President Buhari in 2015. But that was not the first merry-go-round. He ran for the presidential elections first in 1992, 2007 and 2011 as well. He lost every time. He is arguably the most constant in Nigeria's democratic scene since the early 1990s, when he took over the mantle from his mentor and friend, Shehu Yar'Adua, who became a martyr when he was jailed and killed for his fight to restore democratic rule by a dictator during an era of despotic military rule.
When I began or started my political career, my main objective was actually to be the governor of Gongola State then.
When Atiku's political mentor, Shehu Yar'Adua, was disqualified by the military from contesting for the presidency, Yar'Adua decided to push Atiku forward as the focal point of the SDP's ambitions. Atiku came third in the convention primary, but MKO Abiola had won by only about 400 votes and a runoff was ordered. Atiku stepped down for Abiola, asking his supporters to cast their votes for him, with an unwritten agreement that Abiola would announce Atiku as his running mate. Abiola won the SDP ticket, but instead announced Babangida Kingibe, who finished as the runner-up, as his running mate.
If you recall, before 1991, I had contested for the primaries, under the Social Democratic Party for the governorship of Gongola State, until it was split into Adamawa and Taraba State. Now in 1991, it wasn't that I was out to run for the presidency, but I was more or less drafted, by my political group or political family, and that is the Yar'Adua political group. And the reason why I was drafted was because, one, our main political leader then, the late Shehu Yar'Adua, was banned from contesting for the presidency. And he had fell out with Baba Gana Kingibe, who would have been the person, to contest instead of him. And then suddenly, Chief MKO Abiola appeared on the scene. He just came into the party 3 or 4 months before the primaries. So there was a deal between Yar'Adua and MKO Abiola. Yar'Adua now told MKO Abiola, look, I'm going to ask Atiku to step down for you, but provided you are going to take him as your running mate. And actually MKO Abiola agreed. But after MKO Abiola won, the governors ganged up, and met Abiola and said, look, we don't want Atiku, we want Kingibe. So eventually, MKO Abiola succumbed to the governor's pressure and then nominated Kingibe as his running mate. So I decided again to go and run for the governor, because what I was more interested was running for the governor of Adamawa State and transforming Adamawa State, based on my vision, which I had developed over a period of time. And then again, here fate also came in. I was not to be the governor, even after I emerged as the governor-elect. Again, Obasanjo decided to nominate me as his vice president.
Posterity did not even allow him to sit on that seat for 1 day. That's how God created it for him. So he became the vice president and effectively played that role.
And as I have always said, if there is any job or political job that I have missed in my life, it's not being the governor of my state.
He presided over the National Council on Privatization, overseeing the sale of hundreds of loss-making and poorly managed public enterprises. He was credited with assisting the president in overseeing economic growth and emancipation from crippling foreign debts.
In my own type of politics, I'm a team player. I never try to put my interest first before the interest either of the party or of the country. I have always been a team player.
2003 is perhaps Atiku Abubakar's best presidential run that never took place, with Obasanjo widely expected to step down after just one term.
Some people went and told Obasanjo that he was preparing to run, when actually he wasn't yet preparing to run. And because of it, Obasanjo declared for his second tenure, I would say in a hurry. He declared quickly, and I remember it was at the International Conference Center, and throughout the declaration, he never mentioned his vice president, never made any mention of him, and it meant that he was calling it quits with him. It was at that point that some of us who were around Atiku Abubakar began to now suggest to him that if it was going to be so, then he better run on his own.
And then suddenly, the governors turned around to say no. They didn't want to allow Obasanjo a second term. And came over to me and said I should contest against Obasanjo. I said, look, the point is that we have already agreed that the presidency should remain in the South for 8 years. If I now run and then I beat Obasanjo, and then there is a protest from the South, and then there is a national crisis, they will say because of my selfish interest, that's why I brought about this crisis. I said no, let's allow Obasanjo to run. And after he runs, then it reverts to the North.
At that point, I think President Obasanjo then made an approach to him, asking him to run along with him once again.
This Cold War was led to the deterioration in their relationship that blew up in their second term together, cost Atiku his boss's support in 2007, and their once cozy relationship has never been the same.
I was in the Senate when all sorts of allegations were slammed against him by President Obasanjo, and we investigated everything about Atiku Abubakar. We found nothing.
On November 25, 2006, Abubakar announced that he would run for president. He was chosen as the presidential candidate of the Action Congress. The Independent National Electoral Commission released the final list of the 24 aspirants for the April elections, with Abubakar's name missing from the ballot. He challenged this in court and won, with the Supreme Court unanimously ruling on the 16th of April that INEC had no power to disqualify candidates. That ruling allowed him to contest, which he still lost. He came third place in the elections, but also challenged those results in a court case that were also narrowly lost.
I was determined to exercise my constitutional right. You see, we spent so many years fighting the military to leave politics and restore democracy. In the process, many people died, including the late Shehu Yaradua, the late MKO Abiola. And then here we are, after we have restored democracy, and we brought somebody as a president. He was now trying to completely reverse our democratic process that had begun to take root in the country. So I was prepared to face any type of political persecution to make sure that democracy was entrenched. In 2007 or 2011, you mean now? Yeah, 2011. Here you had a situation where the presidency had moved to the north in the person of late Umaru Yaradua, and he died. And the vice president from the south took over. What I expected the vice president to do was to complete the term, of Umaru, and then allow the north to continue, enjoying the remaining 4 years as a rotational arrangement. But the president was adamant, and I decided to challenge him on that basis. I said, if you do that, you are going to disrupt this zoning arrangement. Therefore, the rotation of power between the north and south is going to be disrupted. And then you are going to also disrupt the zoning policy of the party, which is also in the constitution. So he didn't listen. He went ahead. Of course, not that I knew I was going to win, but I gave him a good fight.
Let me say without missing words that he is a man that will fight for you, whether he knows you or not. Once your rights have been trampled upon, be rest assured that you have one man that will stand by you in thick and in thin. And that man is Atiku Abubakar.
I don't want to be cheated, and I don't want any part of this country to be cheated. I will fight it.
In October 2010, Atiku announced his intentions to contest for the presidency in the People's Democratic Party. On the 22nd of November, a committee of Northern elders selected him as the Northern Consensus candidate over former military President Ibrahim Babangida, former National Secretary Advisor Aliyu Gusau, and former Governor Bukola Saraki of Kwara State. In January of 2011, Atiku contested for the presidential ticket of his party alongside the incumbent President Goodluck Jonathan and Sarah Jibril, where he performed well but lost the primary, garnering 805 votes to President Jonathan's 2,736. Atiku Abubakar joined the 2015 presidential race on the platform of the All Progressive Congress on October 2014. He contested the party primaries on December 2014 against Muhammadu Buhari, Rabiu Kwankwaso, Sam Inda Azaya, and Rochas Okorocha. He came third, losing to the current Nigerian president Muhammadu Buhari and runner-up Rabiu Kwankwaso with 954 votes.
Nigerian people are very disappointed in the ruling party. Their fight against corruption equally has failed. Because in their government, corruption is in the front burner, and they are unable to address it.
Looking at the future, I would say, if the right platform is there this time around in 2019, he will make it, especially with his views on national issues, with his wide connections in the whole of the country. It is obvious today that the next presidential candidates of the two major parties will come from the north.
At a point in time in our journey, you know, we will have, you know, the right kind of, you know, people, the right kind of government, you know, to govern this country. That's my main really objective. So as long as I'm strong enough and I have the time, you know, I will continue, you know, to be involved in partisan politics. But fundamentally is to strengthen democracy, because I fought to restore democracy, I fought to sustain it to where it is today, and I will fight to make sure that it becomes a permanent feature, you know, of governance in this country.